Thank you very much for coming.
Mate, thanks for having me on.
Give us a really quick summary of what you do.
I'm a business coach. I call myself the profit coach.
What is your goals and ambitions for your business?
It's interesting because, what I help people do is create a business that isn't reliant on them, whereas my business is me,
From your knowledge, what is maybe the top 3 things that you can see that business owners can kind of do to improve their profit, improve their cash flow kind of in their business? On this week's episode of the podcast, we have Anil, the Profit Coach. Now, I've known Anil for a few years now through the Penrith Valley Chamber of Commerce. He is a wealth of knowledge. His background as an accountant, now as a business coach that focuses on profit, is something that is really interesting. And I think people are going to get a lot of value of this podcast. So let's get stuck into Anil, the Profit Coach. All right, well, Anil, thank you for coming on my podcast. I've actually wanted to have you on for a while, but I kind of wanted to wait a little bit until I got a bit of an audience. And there's a reason for that. And that's because what you do, I think, is really beneficial for businesses, but also I just kind of wanted to wait because I wanted to get some more podcasts behind my belt so that I can deep dive into you, because I think I'm really intrigued about Anil. I'm really intrigued about the Profit Coach, what that is. But we'll get to there. But first of all, so thank you very much for coming.
Mate, thanks for having me on. Really, really appreciate it. I feel privileged to be asked to come onto your podcast, mate.
Oh, thank you. Obviously, we've known each other now for 2 years or so with through to the chamber. Shout out to the Penrith Valley Chamber of Commerce. If you're a Penrith business owner, get onto it. Don't you agree, Anil?
Agreed. And we met at a chamber event that I think Kate was hosting.
Yeah, that was my first one. And then we actually quickly realized that we had a mutual client as
right.
well.
Which is bizarre.
Yes. It's bizarre, but also shows that sometimes business can be quite small, right? There could be a lot of connections, a lot of people that might have same clients in different capacities, which is really interesting.
It's a small world. Yeah.
But obviously, you are a profit coach. So those people who are listening and watching, a profit coach in business to help people obviously get better at what they do. So just can you give us a really quick summary of what you do, and then we'll deep dive into Anil.
So I'm not sure if the term a profit coach is a general term. I'm a business coach. I call myself the profit coach because a lot of what I focus on is the numbers. I've got an accounting background. So for me, even though business is not all about just making more money, I find that having that focus of helping a business make more money means that they can buy back their time, they can reward their team, they can give back to the community. It just opens you up to having a lot more choices and freedom and ability to give back to others if, or do whatever you want with that. So that's the initial focus. And so I'm a business coach that focuses on the dollars and helping you make more money initially.
Which is, a niche in itself within business coaching, because there's obviously so many different factors. Like I personally have a business coach that solely focuses on videographers and getting them leads and systems and stuff like that. But obviously you specifically niching into kind of helping them understand the numbers is probably really crucial.
And I've looked at niching. I've done courses around niching. I've never really committed to an industry niche like your coach does. Mine's fairly broad. I work with a wide range, but I know that the main reason people work with me compared to a different business coach is my focus on the numbers and my accounting background. So I think it makes sense for me. I even though I don't like, doing any accounting work and getting too involved in the numbers in terms of, I'm just not that detailed focused, but it's
your top line.
But top line. Understand the big picture around the numbers, the strategy, how that flows through to the numbers, all that sort of stuff. So I know that people use me because of the numbers and my background, and I thought, well, why not just focus on that area as a key area for me to just to get out there in the market.
Cool. So let's now backtrack.
Yep.
Let's backtrack. So that's who you are, what you do, and we'll get further into that later on.
Yep.
But let's backtrack into Anil, where a little bit of background on you, like your past, your present, your future, all that kind of stuff.
So I've been doing this for nearly 20 years, and people joke. A lot of my friends joke that, so prior to me running my own business, I've come from corporate accounting background mainly, and every 3 years generally I'd change jobs. I just couldn't stick with. I just like to learn new things, and I probably get a bit bored as well.
Yeah.
And back in the day when I was younger, it was a way to to really lift your salary if you change jobs and look for new opportunities. So there was always a joke with my friends that this has obviously been the longest job I've ever had.
Yeah.
So it's but I think
It's because
running
you care, mate. It's because you care.
it is, and running a business, there's so much to do. You can't get bored. Like there's just so much freedom, flexibility to really create what you want out of a business. And sure, there's massive challenges, which we all know. Business isn't easy, but it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you learning. It keeps you there's definitely never a boring time.
What do you think was some of your key learnings you had changing jobs every 3 years or whatever it was?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I found that I could adapt pretty well. I could build relationships pretty quickly. I think that's the biggest thing. People are probably reluctant on changing jobs because they get comfortable. They get comfortable what they're doing. They get comfortable working with the same people. They get comfortable with a certain industry, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. And I know a lot of people early on. I was thinking, well, all these people have stayed in the same job and they've moved up within one company, have really progressed well, and you can really build a great knowledge of a particular industry.
Yeah.
So different things work for different people. I think that's the key. It's not one size fits all. But I just like to, I learn a lot about working with different people, working with different team structures, different industries. So I just found that for me, it's been really good because now working with lots of different businesses now and different team structures, different personalities, having that experience changing jobs regularly was a good training ground for that. I just learned to settle in quickly and learn how a business works quickly. So that's worked for me, but I totally understand people who've had a career in the one company. As long as it provides opportunity, it's fantastic. I know people who've worked through, traveled overseas with the same company. So there's lots of opportunities with, as long as you're keen to continue to learn, whether it's within the same business or whether it's, changing jobs, as long as you're there, you want to continue to learn and grow. I think that's the key to really developing. And same in business, it's easy to just be focused on what you do technically, but if you can, be more open-minded and learn about how to run different parts of a business, they're the people that, that obviously grow and are more successful overall.
Yeah.
If it's different things for different people. I mean, it's hard to define success sometimes, but it's but I think if you're out there learning, and even personally, learning how to be a better parent, learning how to stay fit and healthy, all these things, just having that mindset to of curiosity and learning, I think is key to having a better life.
I was gonna ask you, the word learning came up a lot, just what you just said. And what was it about you growing up as a kid that your pursuit of knowledge, do you think kind of really drove you to where you are now?
I couldn't say that it was the way my parents brought me up or anything. I think it was just innate. I used to love reading initially fiction books, but then I started reading just self-development books on my own. I don't know what triggered it off. I can't pinpoint like a webinar or a seminar. Where there's no webinars back then. This is a long time ago. But I was just always curious. And I just started reading things like How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, like a very long time ago. Just those sorts of books, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. All of these books, I was just curious about learning and developing myself. Even
what age do you reckon you were kind of doing that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was just thinking about that, whether it was school, probably more uni days, late teens, early 20s, that sort of time. And I can't really pinpoint a specific time that it really triggered. So long ago now, mate. I'm, you can see by the grey hairs. It's been a while.
Still look better than me, mate. No, but like I think it's really curious for me because I'm still relatively young in my business journey. We've been around now coming into 8 years, but really the last 3 odd years has been this kind of business kind of world.
Yep.
And I personally find it hard to find time to read and to get into those things. It's just not one of my learning skills. I don't want to say learning skills, but like people, there's so many different types of people, how they learn. Like people are doers, readers, all those kind of things. I'm definitely a doer person, like action, like getting in there and do it. I'm curious because obviously for as long as I've known you, you're very well versed in all these different kind of techniques and books and things like that. So obviously that spark happened, and then you just kind of.
So I suppose early on it was all books because that's the only way you could learn. Whereas now we've got so many easy opportunities to learn. So a lot of my clients are like you and a lot of other business people. They don't like to read. I work with a lot of tradespeople, for example. So audiobooks, fantastic. When you're walking the dog or pushing the kids around in the pram, potentially, you could listen to stuff, in the car. So there's all these opportunities now to learn. But you're right, it's not just reading books or listening to audios or listening to podcasts. Nowadays I probably don't read as much because, I feel I've already got a good base knowledge. Yeah. But what I do now, I learn a lot just by having meetings. The other day I think I posted something on social that I caught up with Maria from, and she was sharing what they do in their business, and I thought, wow, what they're doing there, I could implement in my business. Even though they've got a totally different business. So it's just now. So I love people. I love networking. I love talking to people, but I love to hear what they're doing and help them. Where I can, just through conversations. But listening about things that I can learn from, whether it's for myself in my business or whether it's for a client. So I find now that I learn a lot just by meeting people, and I like having a coffee and, all that.
For sure.
So, so it's different ways to learn. And, but I do encourage people to be more focused or conscious about wanting to learn, not just getting. Business is so busy and everyone's just busy doing stuff. Find the time to, set aside, even if it's 15, 20 minutes a day to read something or listening to something on a, audio. They're probably the two key areas, ways. And sometimes it's trying to work out, well, what's the, what should I listen to? What should I read?
There's so many things like, absolutely. And like so many people will say, oh, this book's great. This book's great. And for myself, right, I'm definitely more of an audiobook person. And some of those audiobooks are just so dry.
Yeah.
Like you really got to, like for me, I need to resonate with the voice of the audio, with the message, of course. But
I'll let you know one favorite one that everyone will love. Jim Rohn, who died a few years back. But he's got an audio book. It used to be a CD. I'm sure you can obviously get it on, just.
What's a CD now?
Yeah, that's right. It's called The Art of Exceptional Living. And he is fantastic to listen to. It's a combination of him live seminars and also just narrating. And his voice is easy to listen to. I totally agree. There are some people that's just dry as.
And like if you're driving the car and you start going, nope, I got to turn that off.
Yeah. So
can we just get?
So he's one that I'd recommend.
We'll just get like Stephen Fry or something like that, just to do all the audiobooks. It would be pretty good. Or what's his name? I can't remember the guy that plays Gollum in Lord of the Rings. Andy Serkis? That's it. Yeah. We just get him to just come in there and just. Yeah. I think all the audiobooks for business might be a little bit.
Might be a bit easy to listen to.
But like I find people like Alex Hormozi pretty interesting to listen to. I think you can tell passion behind it. Yeah. Anyway, networking.
Yep.
You're very big on that. When did that kind of come part of you?
Yeah, good question. Because I started nearly 20 years ago, and so now we're in the Penrith area. But the first year I was still living closer to the city. I always used to work in the city. We used to live in the inner west. And when I started the business, for the first year I was in that area, and even then, actually I was quite lucky, I think, because when I started with this big coaching group. And one of the guys who was one of the lead coaches in there, he ran a networking, like a fortnightly breakfast group. So one of the automatic things was that we would, as a coach, we would get into one of these groups that he's running. So I think I was lucky in that way that I was introduced to these fortnightly breakfast groups initially through that connection, and it was sort of normal for us to do that. And then I moved out here to the Penrith area and quickly decided that the Penrith Chamber was the place for me to connect with. I joined a couple of chambers, and I found that the Penrith Chamber just suited my style, and it was obviously a growing area. And I suppose I decided on that because I was part of this larger coaching group, and I'd learned from them what they were doing, to build relationships and build business in general. So once again, as I said before, it's learning through others, and I think that's really helped me. Just being around the right people, learning what they're doing, what's working for them, what's not working. I think you can really shortcut a lot of that trial and error phase if you can just learn from what other people are doing and if they're happy to help and share. So I think that's so I decided I'm a people person. I like meeting people. First up, when you start networking, it is super uncomfortable and it's scary.
I'm still uncomfortable. Like for me, when I go to networking events, I've gotten better at it. But one thing that I just tend to do, and a lot of people do, is to just go talk to people that they know.
Yeah.
Talk to people that they've worked with before, that they've in groups together. And for me, it's I always kind of chalk it up to I'm an introvert masquerading as an extrovert. And if it's a camera or on a stage, I can get up there and I can present and I can be really kind of open. But when it comes to those kind of things and kind of the dating world in a sense, prior to marriage, I get really nervous and self-confidence comes really deep within me. So what can anyone else who resonates with how I'm feeling at networking, if that's where you're at in the stage of your business, and absolutely you should, what can you give advice about best practices of networking? Because you do it so well. You really do.
So I've had to learn. So it's a bit like you said, standing out in front of an audience. I used to hate that. I hated public speaking, which, what most people say, it's one of the biggest fears that people have. So whether it's public speaking or going to networking and meeting new people, there's a couple of things that I did personally for myself to help. One is just accept that it's going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be automatically natural. But I draw this diagram for people about comfort zone. It's, you've got this circle around you called the comfort zone, and it's all about actively, consciously wanting to push past that, knowing it's not going to be comfortable, but then it becomes easier. That circle grows. Okay, so that's just more philosophically around accepting that it's going to be uncomfortable initially, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Okay, so it's just pushing past that fear. The other thing I did, and when I joined this coaching group, I was open to this whole world of affirmations and visualization, all these things that were super foreign to me because I've come from a corporate background, academic, uni, all that sort of thing. We never did anything like that to train your mind. So I started doing affirmations, visualizations, even around, I'm a confident person. I'm connecting well with people. All these things you can tell yourself to reprogram how you think. So these are things that I did to help give myself confidence.
Yeah.
And after a while, it just becomes easier. But you got to push past that fear first. But I think there's three key reasons to go to a networking event. The first one that people think is the main reason is, to find, to connect with people who are potentially clients.
Yeah.
Okay. But I find that doesn't happen.
9 times out of 10, it probably doesn't happen.
That's out of the 3 or 4 things, that's probably one that, it's the least likely to happen. The second is just connecting with people who potentially could be a referral partner, building relationships. And then they know people who, they could introduce you to down the track. So that's what's helped me most. Thirdly, just going in there thinking, how can I help this person? How can I really listen? So it's really, asking about them, being interested in people. I think that's the key. So I'm naturally interested in people. It's I don't want to talk about myself. I generally like to find out about others, and then just try to put them in touch with the right person. Try to give them some tips if you've got some experience that you can share. So they're probably don't go in there just thinking, I need to collect cards, or I need to just give my cards out. It's not about that. It's about being interested in people, enjoying learning about people. That word comes up again, and just seeing how you can help. And that's if you become known for someone who can help and who are interested in other people, then you're going to build those relationships. But it's all practice. It's taken me a long time to get confident, and I know stories of people who said that they've turned up at a networking event, their first networking event, and just sat in the car and were too afraid to get out of their car.
Yeah.
But and that first time they just turned around and went back home. They didn't go to the event. So just accept that this is normal. A lot of people feel this way. But then that same person also shared her story about she made that first move to go to that event, and it was super uncomfortable. But then after a while, it just you meet one person, then the next time you meet that person again, and they introduce you to someone else. So it can take time, but it does. Your network grows if you just stay consistent. And we know we've talked about marketing before. It's all about consistency. Whether it's networking, whether it's social media, it's just trying to be consistent.
It's similar, like what I always say for video marketing, especially. Video is really good to get people to know, like, and trust you. But it's similar in networking too. The more that you show up, you're there, people are going to know you. They're going to start liking you. They're going to see you, stuff. And eventually, like, I've experienced it with the chamber, right? Like, I joined the chamber not knowing a single person. Actually, no, I did know one person. But from there now on, like, I think I contribute my business growth just because of being around people in this kind of wider network.
And I think it's it's consistency going to, let's say chamber events, but also there are other networking opportunities in the same area. And I think what's helped me as well is not just focusing on the chamber events, it's looking at other networking in the area, whether it's, we can name all sorts of different breakfast groups.
So many,
There's so many out there. But then you see the same people at those that you then see at the chamber events, but also making a conscious effort to, if you connect with someone, I always proactively organise a catch-up. Just catch up for a coffee afterwards, in between events. You can't build enough of a relationship in that group setting. You need, if you have a good conversation with someone, and then I always like to organise a coffee catch-up separately, like a one-on-one. And I'll say anyone I meet, if I grab their details, then I will always send them an email that night or the next day saying, it was great to catch up. Looking forward to catching up with you again at the next event.
So it's all touch points, right?
Yeah. It's
showing up, reaching out, all those kind of things.
And being and I suppose it is about being thankful, about being, it was great to catch up. It's just having that mindset around being interested in people, but also being grateful for the opportunity to meet someone and acknowledging that. Sure, it's a bit of work, you got to do a little bit of work to build those relationships. Yeah.
But it's all part of a marketing strategy as well. At the end of the day, through organic, paid, and referral networking, it's really, there's a big holistic approach about your marketing and how it should be, which networking is, a piece of that pie. But for me personally, it's been one of the biggest pieces of the pie in the last few years. But I still get nervous. I think it's about going in and like seeing groups and not wanting to interrupt, which is the most nerve-wracking thing for me. But anyway, that's
and it's right. Different people suit different things suit different people. That's why some people love going to a regular group where they know everyone and they can just build connections. And maybe from there,
collectives.
Yeah, that's right. Chamber collectives. And then from there, you can get introduced to other people, but then it's making the effort to have catch up for a coffee with other people. It's just, some different. I suppose with networking, there's so many different options that suit different people. So whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you can find different ways to connect with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you started off as an accountant in that kind of industry. I guess what I want to know is what led you from an accountant to a business coach? Because there is similarities in monetary, like what you
Yep.
do in the terms of numbers and that, but like it's still that's a complete shift, really.
Yeah. So I suppose it comes back to it's not something I've thought about in this context, but now that we've been talking about learning. So when I was in corporate, yeah, it's good to you're teaching me about stuff, or at least helping me to put the pieces and join the dots. So when I was in corporate, working in finance roles, I decided to do an MBA as well. So the reason for that, I suppose, is because I wanted to get more qualifications to further my career in corporate. Initially, that's what I thought back then.
High achiever, Anil.
That's what I thought back then. And it's the same, even now, if you're in small business, like anyone out there who's in business, it's about, recognizing that you need to learn other things. It's not just about what you're doing and become a better videographer or whatever. It might be, you need to learn about marketing. You need to learn about how to build a team. So I decided that I need to learn more about general, non-finance disciplines, I suppose. And through that process, I realized that I can think marketing, I can think HR, I can think more broadly outside of finance. So doing that course gave me both the tools, but also the realization that I can do more than just finance.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided that
opened your mind to other things.
And I decided corporate wasn't my cup of tea anyway. So, but it got me thinking that I want to leave and join a small business consultancy where I can be paid to learn about small business. So anyway, so that's probably the one of the things that triggered me towards moving outside of just a narrow finance focus. The other thing is my father's always had his own business, I suppose. Like he's an orthopedic surgeon. So he's got his own private practice.
So you've been around entrepreneurs your whole life.
Whether he's an entrepreneur, he's not. He's more a technical specialist that runs his own, like self-employed, basically. Yeah,
business owners.
Yeah. So, but you're right. He's employed. He employs people. He sees the ups and downs of the economy or things. I remember back in the day they had a doctor's strike, and there was a lot of so income really dried up, and so there's all these things that I've been exposed to, and him, I know that he used to get up early and write reports in his study, and all these things that you wouldn't do as an employee. Okay, so and I could see that how he was set up, having his own office, and running his own business, and even having being able to claim his car as a tax deduction, all these sorts of things that I was exposed to.
What I want to say about that is like my dad is a painter, right? And he was did stuff himself, but I never really saw the business side. So I never personally was exposed to business owners, but you having that exposure is probably really, as a young age, probably really helped you where you are as a business owner now.
Yeah, even though he didn't share, he didn't talk about business, but I got enough just by being around him to know what it was like, and I think that's the other thing that really prompted me to do my own thing. Yeah, because I thought, okay, well, he's I could see myself having my own office, running my own show, employing people, that type of thing. So I think it was so a couple of things there, I suppose, just growing up in that environment, plus also doing some training around a broader skill set that gave me the confidence to leave corporate life, leave the security of a pay packet. And
did that scare you?
No, because I knew that if it didn't work out, I could just go back to paid work. You got to think about, well, what's the best case scenario and what's the worst case scenario? We talked about this, this morning in a meeting that we were in, Adam. And the best case scenario was that, I could then build something and have this freedom and have, build this business. Worst case is, I spend a bit of money and a bit of time and it doesn't work out. And, in 6 months I can just go back and get a job, so, but I didn't want to wonder.
Yeah.
What it would have been like if I'd hadn't tried.
Yeah, I think that's That's a really cool takeaway there, because very similar to me. Like, I had a crossroad, right? So I was working, still had my business. My business was basically a side hustle for a long time. Started off in the wedding industry.
Yep.
And then when COVID hit, I shifted to that to corporate. And then I was in this crossroad where I was still working in a real estate company as their lead videographer. And I went down to part-time to focus a little bit more on Pixchats as a corporate entity.
Yep.
And I was in this crossroad world. Do I leave this real estate company and go find a high-paying video job somewhere, or do I just go all in with Pixchats?
Yep.
And it was a pretty simple decision, because if I went down the route of going to find a high-end kind of video job, it would have been all city-based. It means I wouldn't have been around my children.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been out the door by 6, home by 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, and not ever see that. So the decision was easy. It was, you know what? I love what I do in Pixchats right now. Let's really just let's take a leap of faith on that.
And worst case, if in 12 months it wasn't working out how you expected, you could always just go and find a job potentially.
Potentially, it's a little bit harder for my industry than yours.
And that's
probably.
why with accounting, it's just there's so much work out there. So, but I think the way you've done it is a smart way, and that's how most people do it. If you can find some flexibility with your paid job, where you can do something on the side, and got that side hustle, you can start building that. It gives you some confidence and some runs on the board there, and then ideally scale that paid employed job back. And if you can find that sort of transition, that's an easy way to do it. Whereas I just
You just went straight in.
I resigned, and I actually ended up buying a franchise within this group. So initially I was thinking, okay,
we could talk about franchises for in a whole
initially
other
I thought
podcast.
I was going to find somewhere that I can get paid to learn about small business, but I did the opposite. I actually paid someone to jump into it. So anyway, it was. But I knew I could always. I had a fallback position in my mind about just getting another job if I had to.
And obviously, it worked out. And now, when did Anil the Profit Coach kind of come into play?
Mate, so it's been 19 years, and for 7 of those years I was with that coaching group. Then I started, then I had my own brand. Then I teamed up with someone else, and we had a different brand. He went overseas, and so it's been
a journey.
I've had so many different brands, and for those that know me for that whole time, they've probably been struggling to keep up with what's his latest email.
Hey, new email, guys.
So I suppose it's so the Profit Coach, the brand itself is probably now how long has it been? It's probably only been about 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So prior to that, I was with another group as part of an accounting group. Prior to that, I was in partnership with a marketing guy. So I've had all these iterations of the business, but essentially I've been doing the same sort of thing, but just looking at different ways to grow and different partnerships. And so always look on the lookout to work with other people. Yeah.
So on the business side now, what is your goals and ambitions for your business?
Yeah, it's interesting because, what I help people do is create a business that isn't reliant on them. Okay, that's the whole idea. Whereas my business is me,
Yeah.
But I enjoy, as you said before, I enjoy what I do, but I want to get more leverage in the way I'm working with my clients. So traditionally it's been all one-on-one, whereas now I'm focusing a lot more on group programs, and I've started building that since the start of the year. So that's really my focus, is getting more leverage in the way I do things. It'll still be me, which I'm happy with, but having a way where I can build more of a community where everyone's helping each other, more leverage for me. But
that's how all top business coaches, like on top of mind, I'm like, Aaron Sansoni and all that, they're all based upon groups and communities, and then they do their personal events, and then they might have the odd one-on-one couples, that they might have.
I think I don't want to grow as big as some of them because it's and they all do great jobs in their own right.
Yeah.
But I know people have been to different large groups, and the owner who they think they're buying the program because of that person, they never see them.
Yeah.
Because they've got their other coaches and other staff who manage a lot of these people. So for me, it's about it's getting that leverage, is creating that sort of program, but still being, still having access to for them to have access to me, but me to have direct contact with them as well. So that's where I want to head. But also, just on a personal note, the kids are getting older. Our youngest is now in year 10. She'll have her own license and be self-sufficient in a year or two. So the whole idea for me is to be able to build my business so that I can work from anywhere, because I love travel. Did a lot before kids. I want to set things up now. So in the next couple of years, once our youngest is at uni, and we can live overseas if we want to, or just travel and still work with clients, but on my terms and in that flexible way. And I think that's the way. It's something we should all take on board, in terms of, we've got a business, we can shape it the way we want. We don't have to do it like Joe Blow does it. We can make it suit our lifestyle if that's what we choose to do. Some people really want to run hard and grow this massive business, and that's great for them. But others want to have create a business that's a lifestyle business and provides flexibility. So, and I think that's one of the great things about business. Even though there's a lot of challenges running a business, it's not easy, but we've got the freedom to make it, structure it the way we want to structure it.
How do you think anyone who's out there who's a business owner, how do you think someone can work out exactly what they want in their business? In like you obviously came to a point where that's what you want. Like, in the next few years, you want to be traveling well, but still be able to operate. How did you get to that point?
Once again, it's just by hearing what others are doing. So I'm not overly creative. It's really just learning from others again, just knowing how other people are setting things up, just being open to looking at, just being aware and wanting to know what other people are doing and how they've got things set up. So that's where it comes back to for me. And that's the way I work with my clients. I'm not a mindset guy. I don't focus a lot on mindset with my clients. It's not up to me to get them to dream bigger, but I want to create the environment where they can talk to other people and learn from what other people are doing. And that gives them ideas, that gives them inspiration, that gets them to take action over certain things that, I might be getting them to, I'm trying to teach them how to manage their time better and show them the tools, but sometimes it's not until they meet other clients that are doing it and have implemented that they think, okay, well, that makes sense, I'm going to start doing it. So I think there's a lot of power in building the community, in getting people to share ideas and learn from each other. And I think that just gives people a bigger perspective. It's not just, this is how I do things, and even within my industry, this is how people do things. It's about broadening your knowledge about how people run businesses and how people set up their businesses, and just learning from that to give you inspiration.
What inspires you?
I like helping people, so that's so I'm lucky. I'm a people person. That's the key, I suppose. My family, I'm very family focused. So for me, it's about being able to provide for them. I like to reward myself as well. I like nice things, but for me, it's more about seeing other people either achieve or, I know that I'm helping others. That's really what drives me. Yeah. So in terms of inspiration with new ideas, it's really, I'm lucky. I enjoy talking with people, hearing what others are doing, and that's what really gives me ideas to try in my business. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's, for me, like, people that inspire me it's kind of this twofolds. I think family and all that is really important. That inspires me to achieve more than what I can imagine.
Yep.
And like, what I'm trying to do is provide the best possible life for my family, which also puts a lot of pressure on me, but it inspires me to keep on going.
Yeah.
And then there's just so many business owners that I've of recent times, and they don't have to be in my niche, that really kind of inspire me to kind of go, oh, I didn't know that existed. And you can take that and like, I think it's really interesting. Like, we've talked about like books and networking and all that kind of stuff, which I think is where people can pull those nuggets of inspiration from.
Yep.
I guess
I think the other, just as you're talking there, Adam, the other thing that inspires me, I like to see people achieving and enjoying themselves. Social media, if you take that as an example, I love seeing people traveling and doing things. I don't resent them for it. Like some people might look at it and get jealous, but it's about, it's having that mindset about, really appreciating, how they've, what they've done to be able to do that. So I think people aren't just suddenly, magically given an opportunity to have freedom to travel. They've worked hard. They've done things, whether they've learned, whether they've put in the hard yards, they've built a business in a certain way. So I think it's about celebrating, though, like seeing people having fun. I think that's how I look at it, and that's what inspires me as well. I love seeing people traveling, but it inspires me to want to travel.
Yeah.
Okay. Even though I know I want to travel, but it's just a reminder. Okay. Well, I've got so many friends overseas at the moment who are in Greece, in Croatia, in Morocco, and I love seeing that because. So a couple of things. One is having the mindset to celebrate other people's achievements, but also being around the right people that are achieving, and just being mindful that you've got the right network. That you surround yourself with the right people who are, doing things that you aspire to do as well. Okay. And so it's just about, it's celebrating, but also making sure you're around the right people that you can learn from, be inspired by, that are positive, all that type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously you've been around a lot of different business owners and businesses, your entire career. What do you think of recent times is probably one of the hardest things you've seen as a trend in kind of where people are?
So one is obviously, slowdown in the economy, interest rate increases last year, cost, inflation. So some of my clients have never been slow. They've always been busy, but since the start of the year, they've seen, a slowdown in work. So that's been a bit of a shock to them as well. But it's a good I think it's seeing the positive for that, I'm lucky I work with people who are proactive. They're willing to try different things. So it's all about looking at strategies to think more creatively about building the business and supplementing their normal lead generation areas with new ways to do things. But also recognizing that the ones that aren't as proactive, they're going to fall by the wayside. And now it's a shame that, not everyone can succeed in the tough times, but knowing that some of those businesses that they compete with may not last the tough times, it just means that if we can be creative, we can, get through the slowdown, that they're going to be better for it when things pick back up. And just recognizing there's always these cycles.
What I hear there is marketing.
Yeah, marketing. That's right.
Sorry.
But a lot of my clients have never done any marketing, so it's new to them as well because they've always been in an industry where there's been plenty of work, or
a very old kind of company that's
they've got relationships and so. But it is it is sometimes it's good to have that shock in an industry, gets you to be a bit more innovative. And it sort of sorts people out as well.
Are you seeing, because I certainly have kind of felt it this year, that loyalty, and what I mean about loyalty is work with the business and you might be working with them for a while, but this year loyalty's kind of gone out the window a little bit?
I think it's natural that businesses then need to look at costs, need to just review everything. And that could happen for me. It could happen for you. People might decide that, okay, well, I can no longer afford to spend money on this, or I need to shop around and look for, alternatives. What you tend to find, though, is that people find someone cheaper and they decide that they're not getting the same sort of result as they used to with someone like you, for example. And then it might take some time for them to come back, but sometimes it's better for them to try someone else at a cheaper price and realize that, okay, well, this is why, it makes more sense to work with Adam. So I think is it about loyalty? I think it's more that people just have to do what they have to do to try to survive, through the tough times. And instead of taking it personally as someone who's no longer loyal, I think it's just accepting that that's, for them it makes sense, And so just the other day I was talking with a client. We meet fortnightly, and I know that he's had a slowdown in his work, and he's let a couple of staff members go. And I said, well, do we want to scale back to monthly instead of fortnightly? To try to do the right thing by him, because I know he's looking at he's looking at costs, and it's only a temporary thing because we've got strategies in place to grow the business. But it's about just understanding that, looking at it from their perspective and saying, okay, well, I can understand why they're doing that, why they are making decisions that might be affecting us, but it's not because they don't want to be loyal. It's because you just got to do what you have to do to survive sometimes.
Yeah. And look, it can be hard and talking about personal experience here, taking that to heart a little bit,
Yep.
especially because, like, for example, myself, I'm very passionate about when I work with people.
Yep.
Like, I always say to people, I'm not a videographer. I'm a video producer. I'm part of your team. We're going to make sure that, once we hit record, there's an intention, there's a reason. It's not just because, oh yeah, we can just turn up and hit record for you, right?
Yep.
So when things like that hits me, it hits me a little bit hard. So what's your advice to maybe business owners who feel that?
Yeah, who are on the receiving end of those decisions. As I said, I think it's, I'm lucky. So it's funny. My wife calls me a Vulcan sometimes. I don't really let things get to me, and I think everyone's different that way. So it's hard for me to give advice apart from what I've already said, that it's really understanding things from the other person's perspective. I think that's the case. And
I actually never thought about it in the way that you just said it too.
So I mentioned a book before, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of the principles, one of those habits is, actually I can't think of exactly how it's worded now, but it's so seek first to understand before being understood. Okay, so understand the other person's perspective, understand why they're doing things. So it's really being able to put yourself in the other person's shoes and say, well, okay, I can see why you're doing that. I'm in a better position than most because I understand what's happening in the business overall. I look at their financials.
Correct, yeah.
So for a lot of people, you probably don't. It might look like that they're making a decision that doesn't make sense, but they're probably looked at their numbers and they're probably just trying to
come up with a solution.
Yeah. So I suppose don't take it personally. It's or if you've got that relationship, just be willing to ask them. It's can I get some feedback? It's been great working with you, but just love to learn how I could do things better.
Yeah.
And then they'll open up. They say, well, it's nothing that you've done, Adam or Joe or Mary. It's it's just that this is the situation we're in.
And I've started to do that for, like, when people come to me for quotes, and then we don't win the job. I've been I never used to really kind of ask why, and I have been asking why now.
Yeah,
because it's at the end of the day, it's also market research for myself.
That's
right?
right.
It might not be monetary. It might be, I don't know. It could be anything from my business. It could be, this other person has the style that's more suited towards what we want. Like, all right, cool. Well, what can I do?
They were recommended, and even though you do a better job, but they've got, I don't know, they've got a bit of a relationship for some reason. It could be whatever.
That's it. Like, it can be a lot of that.
Yeah.
So I guess we're near the end of wrapping up, but there's a couple of other things I want to ask before we get to our rapid fire questions.
Right. Okay.
So get ready.
Get ready.
Get ready for that. So I guess the first thing is, like, well, obviously this is just general advice here, but from your knowledge, what is maybe the top 3 things that you can see that business owners can kind of do to improve their profit, improve their cash flow kind of in their business?
Yep. Okay. So number 1 is to understand the numbers. Okay. So I always say that know your numbers is key. And if I look at the business owners that are doing particularly well in my experience in my cohort, the ones that really understand their numbers, look at their numbers, and not just their profit and loss at the end of the day, but also they're tracking key numbers in their business, whether it's, what sort of, how their marketing's returning, what sort of return they're getting from their marketing, setting revenue targets for their sales team or KPIs, key performance indicators. So having a real appreciation around the numbers, I think, is key. Second is being able to find your place in the market. So really understand how you can stand out and be known for something. So I think, just like you said that I'm the profit coach, you've got this perception of what I focus on. So really getting clear on that, and because there is a space for everyone, it's just finding your spot so that you don't have to compete on price. So I think that's another key thing. And then I think just being able to build relationships, with the team, with suppliers, with customers, with referral partners. They're probably some of the key things, just being able to develop your people skills. It doesn't have to be leadership skills necessarily, but it's about being able to connect, build relationships with people. There's a whole heap of other things I could share, but they're probably they're three things that just spring to mind.
No, they're great things. Like, I literally was on the phone to a client yesterday, and I said, like, we'd worked with them for a year prior, and then we haven't really kind of worked with them for a while. I said to them, when I was working with you guys for that year, I knew what I was doing as a videographer, but like now I know more about being a business owner, and I know about managing clients, and it's just through that knowledge of and growth. Yep. I think people need to understand that if you're running a business, you need to learn multiple different facets, especially if you're the owner. So, and
lots of hats to wear, mate. Lots of hats to wear.
Absolutely. But then also understanding what you're not good at and how you can maybe outsource that to someone who really is good.
Yeah. And that's where, time management is a big area. I didn't mention that in those three areas, but yeah, just because as a small business owner in particular, you wear so many hats, you need to be able to have a way to carve out time to focus on marketing, carve out time to look at your numbers, carve out time to reconnect with, referral partners or business partners. So it's that takes a while to, some disciplines around, how do you manage your time?
Have you got a productivity hack?
There's a tool I call the default diary. So it's basically, it's looking at your week and, well, first of all, understanding all the things you should be working on, and then just chunking out time, regular time each week. So you might say, okay, I'm going to spend Tuesday and Thursday morning, an hour each morning on marketing. I'm going to spend a couple of hours a week on prospecting, or catching up with, or lead management or follow up. So it's just so it's mapping that out, and then it's like a budget. It's like a time budget. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to follow things ideally. It doesn't mean you're going to follow that 100% every week. Even if you follow it 70% of the time, it's going to be a lot better than not having any structure in the week at all. But different things work for different people. Some people who are structured love that sort of technique. Others, it's more about, to get, in terms of productivity hack, it is just recognizing that they're better off just getting someone else in the business that is more structured and can handle all the detail, so they can focus on doing what they do best, which could be building relationships. So it's different for everyone, but the default diary, that concept is a key tool that I use with my clients.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. So
okay, rapid fire time.
No,
is it?
not yet.
Not yet.
One more thing. He's so keen to get to the rapid fire questions, everyone. No, so outside of business, you are quite active with like athletics and that. Where did that come from? And the reason why I ask that is I always like to ask like a bit of a personal kind of question.
Yeah. So I love staying fit. I've always been a runner, and I've moved from longer distance running to more track stuff. So 100, 200, 400 meters.
Yeah.
And that's because my kids are involved. So at the moment, my daughter's doing athletics, and I've taken her to the track and I've run around with her and done that sort of training, just mucking around. So I decided last year that, why not? I'll join a club and started entering some competitions. So it's once again, it's being around people who are doing things, and that rubs off.
Why do you think that's important for business owners to maybe have some form of personal thing that they can take away from business?
Yeah. So I think fitness is great not just for yourself physically, but mentally as well. You need some sort of release. And whether it's running or whether it's swimming or whether it's playing sport, I think just having that physical release helps people just get that balance. So it actually creating those endorphins and that reaction in your body helps mindset, but also just knowing that you're not just working, that you've got time for family or sport or looking after yourself. I think just that knowledge that you've got that balance is good mentally. So that's what was your question again?
It's such a good question. So basically, why do you think it's important for business owners to maybe have some form of personal activity or something like that they can do to kind of...
So they're the reasons. I think it's just because business can be very stressful. You need to have something to take your mind off business and both mentally, but I think physically as well. It's just, it gives you more energy. I know if I exercise, I feel clearer, I have more energy, and it's just good for you. It's healthy. Yeah. So I think and even socially as well, it's you meet people in a different, environment. It's
more relaxed
not just
environment,
business
probably.
people. You're talking, it's just good to have that balance.
Yeah.
But some people are just really hard. So that's me personally, and they're the sort of people I work with.
Yeah.
It's those people who want that balance with family and personal time.
Yeah.
There are other coaches that work with, really high-powered entrepreneurs that just want to go and work 70 hours a week and just build a business. But we can see where that leads to. Relationships break down, and that's not healthy as well.
Yeah. What's your PBs?
Oh, mate, I can't remember now from last season. I think 400 it's around about 102. 1 minute 2 seconds, I think. 200, I can't remember now. It's around 27 seconds for 200. May not be that low actually. I can't remember. But anyway,
do you prefer the 400 or the 200 or?
Probably 200, 400. 100 is
too fast,
and prone to injury as well.
Yeah. Just go.
That's right. Something's going to snap.
Hopefully not anything on your body.
Yeah.
All right. I know you've been edging for these rapid fire questions. So
right.
Here we go. All right. So first thing is, now I just completely lost my rapid fire questions. So we're going to start again. So rapid fire questions. If you can be anywhere in the world right now, where it would be?
Greece.
Why?
Because I know someone who's over there and it looks fantastic. I think it was it Milos, one of the islands I haven't been to. I've been to Greece before, but it's just looks so relaxing, mate. And yeah.
If you were doing anything else other than what you're doing, including accounting, what would it be?
Work-wise, it's funny that's a tough question because I love doing what I'm doing. So probably charity work of some sort. I think so. I'm on the board of a not-for-profit at the moment. I've been on the board of the Penrith Chamber. I know I've got a lot of skills, and I like to give back, I suppose. So yeah, if I didn't need to work, I'd be probably doing more board, like volunteer type work.
Favorite musician or artist?
Oh, mate. So I've got such a wide variety, but whatever the first thing that sprung into my mind was Black Eyed Peas.
I got a feeling.
I don't know why, but mate, I've got a wide range, both movies and music. Yeah, massive range.
All right, well, let's go on the top of the movies. What's your favorite movie?
Once again, the first thing that jumped to mind. Well, actually, I love the Star Wars, that whole era, but the first thing that jumped to mind for some reason was Shawshank Redemption.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love the Goonies.
Oh, really?
I love the Goonies. I wanted to be those kids so much.
Wow.
I wanted to go on a pirate adventure and find a pirate ship.
Yeah.
So it's just great Steven
But
Spielberg.
that's one of my weaknesses. I spend a lot of time watching bad movies, I think. Not that Goonies is a bad movie, but yeah, just watching movies. I don't know, I think it's just it's good downtime. Apart from exercise, it's just a good way for me to just turn off, really.
Yeah. Top 3 favorite books, and it doesn't have to be business related.
Yeah, it's interesting. Business books come to mind, but I'll choose one fiction one. Shogun, which is by James Clavell.
Have you watched the show yet?
No.
Just won a whole bunch
was it
of
Shogun?
Emmy.
No, it wasn't Shogun. No, not Shogun. Ninja. Ninja's the one I'm thinking of. Only because I did martial arts when I was young, and so
What? Why did that get brought up?
so that's one. But I like anyway. So there's a few novels back in the day, but these days, actually one of the books that really transformed the way I think was a book called Thick Face, Black Heart, and it's all about this Asian concept of face where you don't let things affect you. And Black Heart was it's a bit like coming back to this idea of networking and getting out of your comfort zone. Don't, just go ahead and do things without getting, without it, getting emotionally attached, I suppose. So anyway, that's two books. And the other one probably would be, as I mentioned, it's more of an audio, but Jim Rowan's book / audio, The Art of Exceptional Living. Definitely listen to that one.
Awesome. All right. So if anyone out there wants to get in touch with you, how can they get in touch and, kind of start connecting with you?
Right. Just Google The Profit Coach. It's theprofitcoach.com.au. Or I've got another website which has a checklist that you can download, which we talked about QR codes recently. It's called swipemyprofitsecrets.com. So that's what I'm going to start promoting.
Awesome. But we'll have all that in the show notes for them to click on too as well.
Yep.
But Anil, thank you for your time. As I know you're a very busy person, you're going to run off to a meeting now as well.
Yep.
But I actually really enjoyed the conversation.
That was great, mate.
And thank you
well
so
done,
much.
And well done for doing these podcasts regularly. It's a big. I know how much I can see the setup here. I'm sure you've shown people the setup, but mate, what you've done here is fantastic, and it's a big commitment. So well done.
Thank you. I really enjoy like I said to you off camera, like this is kind of like business therapy for me.
Yeah.
Like, as I said, I'm still early in my business journey. So the more I get to sit in front of business owners, whether it been like you, who've been established for 20 odd years, or people who are on a similar journey to me, I really enjoy just sitting down and just kind of talking.
Yeah.
And I think it comes down to...
And as we said, it's good to be face-to-face instead of over Zoom as well.
Yeah. And then I think the biggest takeaway that I have gotten from you today is constant learning is really crucial as a business journey.
Yep.
And that's something that I probably need to shave some more time in my business for.
Yep.
There's so many books I probably need to read. But in saying that, I'm on my own journey and I've learned so much in the last 3 years. It's ridiculous.
Especially that first, obviously well done on getting past year one. But it's that first, probably the first 10 years, there's so much to learn. There's so much, to get.
Well, we don't
around.
learn how to be a business owner in school. Like, you might do business studies, but not that I did. But there's not really a course on how to be a business owner.
Yep.
And it's just through other people experiences.
Yeah, no, you're right. And that's why, what I'm, and I know we don't want to, don't need to talk too much about what I do, but it is, training my clients is so critical. So I've got these foundational things they learn about, financial management, time management, marketing. It's finding, it doesn't have to be, you don't want to overdo it. There's so much, you can overdo and overwhelm yourself with learning, but it's just finding, some core principles around these. So I'd say marketing, sales, financial management, team building. They're probably the key ones. Planning as well, and just time. Did I say time management? I think I did. Yeah. So once you can learn some of those fundamentals, it's just then then you can keep building on those, but just getting those fundamentals in place.
Yeah.
But then, so I think it's more about learn the fundamentals. Don't try to keep learning too much. It's about implementing as well. So. Sometimes I meet people who are always going to courses, always, learning, but they're not really doing anything with it. And it's, not much use.
Yeah, exactly. If you go to a course and you get all this stuff that you need to do, but then you don't do it, was that even
And you might think this is fantastic content. I've learned so much. Look at all these tools I've got. But then if you're just overwhelmed and don't know where to start or don't know, if you don't do anything with it, then...
Yeah,
it's just, you're sort of fooling yourself that you're doing something, but you're not really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway.
But thank you so much again.
All right, mate.
It's always nice to catch up with you. And also just a shout out, anyone in the Penrith area, Penrith Valley Chamber of Commerce is how I met Anil.
Yep.
We have something called the Chamber Collective, which is really awesome, which I think you initiated
Originally.
Anyway, side note. But yeah, it's a great way of just.
We've now got 4 groups running, which is good.
Yeah, awesome. Yep. And it's just a good way to honestly just sit down and kind of like word vomit out business ideas and issues.
I think the biggest issue or challenge that business owners have is that they can feel really isolated in their business. So it's good to be able to be around people that you can share challenges with, get ideas from, know that they're going through the same journey as you are. Otherwise, it's hard to share what you're feeling and how what's happening in your business with your team, or even with your friends. So it is. You can feel really isolated. So it's having that group, or even, it doesn't have to be a big group. It could just be a couple of key, business friends that you can share and generate ideas with and talk about business is useful.
It's building that community around you.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
All right, mate.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast with Anil, the Profit Coach. I think, like I said, the biggest key takeaways that I got from this episode was constant learning and trying to build that community. And for me, that is some of the biggest things that I've been trying to do over the last few years. So I just want to thank Anil for his time coming out and chatting to us. And I really do hope that you have learned a lot. As I said, all his information will be in the show notes. And yeah, thank you, Anil, the Profit Coach, and we'll talk very soon.